Maya Reed knew how to make people watch. By 32, she had turned a small beauty account into a crowded corner of the internet, where thousands came each evening for makeup tutorials, relationship stories, confidence advice, and the carefully edited drama of her life. Her videos were bright and polished. Soft lights reflected from a spotless mirror behind her. Expensive brushes stood in neat rows, and Maya always appeared perfectly composed. She smiled often. That smile had become part of her brand. "Ladies, confidence is everything," she told her viewers one night, adjusting a strand of dark hair beside her cheek. "Never let another person make you feel small." The comments moved rapidly beneath the live stream. Maya read them, laughed, answered questions, and accepted compliments with practiced ease. To strangers watching through their screens, she seemed warm, funny, and fearless. But sometimes, when the conversation turned toward friendship, her expression changed. There was one name she rarely said: Jenna. At first, Maya mentioned her only indirectly. She would talk about people who pretend to love you, or friends who secretly compete with you. She never explained exactly what had happened, yet her followers began connecting the pieces. "She stole something from me," Maya said during one broadcast. The comment section exploded with questions. "What did she steal? Tell us! Expose her!" Maya lowered her eyes and smiled sadly. "Some things are too painful to discuss." That answer only made them more curious. Over the following weeks, Jenna became a ghost inside Maya's stories. Maya claimed someone she once trusted had betrayed her when she was vulnerable. She hinted that Jenna had interfered in her relationship, humiliated her, and taken away an opportunity that could have changed her life. The details were never complete. That was what made them powerful. Every missing piece allowed Maya to fill the silence with whatever version of the past she needed. Her followers encouraged her. Some called Jenna toxic. Others urged Maya to expose everything. Maya rarely corrected them. Their outrage seemed to comfort her. Privately, however, the subject consumed her. Late at night, after the lights were switched off and the cameras were silent, Maya would scroll through old photographs. In one, she and Jenna were laughing at a restaurant. In another, they stood together at a birthday party, arms around each other. Once, they had been inseparable. Maya stared at those pictures until the warmth in them became unbearable. Then, one Thursday evening, her phone vibrated. She glanced down casually. The message was from someone organizing a private gathering the following weekend. Maya read it once. Then again. One sentence stopped her completely. "Jenna Cole will be there." For several seconds, Maya did not move. The room was silent except for the faint hum of her ring light. Then the corners of her mouth slowly lifted. She locked the phone, looked at her reflection, and smiled. This time, the smile was not for the camera. For years, Maya had told herself that she wanted closure. She had repeated the word so often that it almost sounded sincere. But closure, in her mind, had slowly changed meaning. It no longer meant understanding what happened or accepting what could not be changed. It meant making Jenna understand the pain Maya believed she had caused. She opened the message again. The gathering suddenly seemed less like an event and more like an invitation written specifically for her. Maya placed the phone beside her cosmetics, reached for her brush, and began removing the traces of makeup from her face. She was already planning what she would say. Years before Maya learned to turn pain into content, she and Jenna had been nearly impossible to separate. They met in their 20s, when both were trying to build lives that looked more certain than they felt. Jenna was confident, practical, and naturally comfortable around people. Maya was quieter at first, watching carefully before deciding whether she belonged. Somehow, Jenna made room for her. Their friendship grew quickly. They shared cheap dinners when money was tight, stayed awake talking about relationships, and promised that success would never change them. Jenna often pushed Maya to take risks. Maya, in return, made Jenna feel understood in ways few others did. But admiration had another side. Maya noticed how easily Jenna attracted attention. People listened when she spoke. Opportunities seemed to find her. Even when Jenna struggled, she carried herself with a confidence Maya secretly wished she possessed. Maya never admitted how much the comparison bothered her. Instead, she became determined to prove that she could stand beside Jenna as an equal. For a while, there was no reason to doubt their friendship. Then Maya began dating Daniel, a charming man who seemed supportive whenever other people were watching. Behind closed doors, however, his behavior slowly changed. He questioned where Maya went, criticized her friends, and made her feel guilty whenever she wanted something he considered selfish. Jenna noticed. At first, she said nothing. Then one evening, after Maya canceled plans for the third time because Daniel wanted her home, Jenna finally confronted her. "You don't have to defend everything he does," Jenna said quietly. Maya stiffened. "You don't know our relationship. I know you're scared of making him angry." The word struck harder than Jenna intended. Maya had spent months convincing herself that Daniel's jealousy was love and his control was concern. Hearing Jenna describe it differently threatened the story she had built around her relationship. Instead of questioning Daniel, Maya questioned Jenna. The confrontation grew into an argument neither woman could take back. Maya accused Jenna of being jealous and interfering. Jenna insisted she was trying to protect her. Then came the accusation that permanently changed everything. "You were never happy for me," Maya said. Jenna stared at her, stunned. "I was trying to save you." Maya shook her head. "No. You wanted me to fail." That night, they walked away from each other. Daniel became the person Maya chose to believe, while Jenna became the friend she blamed. In the months that followed, Maya repeated the same version of the argument until it felt like history rather than memory. She told herself Jenna had betrayed her, embarrassed her, and tried to destroy her relationship. When Daniel eventually left, Maya did not reconsider. Blaming Jenna was easier than admitting she had ignored the warnings. Years passed, but the old wound never closed. Maya deleted photographs, blocked Jenna, and rebuilt her life around a new identity. Online, she became confident, glamorous, and outspoken. Yet beneath every polished video lived the same unresolved anger. She no longer remembered Jenna as the friend who had stayed beside her during difficult years. She remembered only the enemy she had created. And when Maya saw Jenna's name on that invitation, every distorted memory came rushing back. She told herself she wanted only one conversation, one chance to make Jenna finally admit what Maya believed she had done. But beneath that explanation was something darker, something Maya had never dared to name. She did not want an apology anymore. She wanted Jenna to feel powerless, the way Maya believed she once had. The gathering was no longer simply an event. To Maya, it was an opportunity to finish a story she had been rewriting for years. The gathering was still 4 days away, but Maya had already begun preparing for it, as though she were approaching the most important night of her life. She changed outfits repeatedly, rejecting dresses she had worn before and ordering 2 new ones without caring about the cost. She studied her reflection beneath bright lights, turning her face from side to side, imagining Jenna's reaction when they finally stood together again. At night, Maya rehearsed conversations. "You never cared about me." She would pause. "You knew what you were doing." Another pause. Then she tried softer words. "I trusted you." None of them satisfied her. The problem was not finding the right sentence. It was deciding which version of the past she wanted Jenna to hear. Maya's obsession began affecting everything around her. She stopped answering casual messages from friends. She spent hours scrolling through old photographs and searching Jenna's public accounts. Every picture became evidence of something. A smile that looked fake, a vacation Maya had not been invited to, a comment that seemed deliberately cruel. She kept telling herself she was only preparing. But preparation had become fixation. Across town, Jenna Cole was preparing for the same gathering with an entirely different frame of mind. At 34, Jenna had become quieter than the woman Maya remembered. Years had taught her to be careful with words, slower to judge, and more willing to admit when she had made mistakes. She still remembered the friendship vividly, including the argument that ended it. Sometimes, she wondered whether she should have handled things differently. She knew she had been right about Daniel's behavior, but being right had not made the consequences easier. She had watched Maya pull away, then disappear from her life entirely. Jenna had respected that distance, even when it hurt. When the invitation arrived, Jenna almost declined. Then she saw Maya's name among the confirmed guests. For several minutes, she stared at it. Part of her wanted to avoid the encounter. Another part believed enough time had passed. Maybe they could finally speak without anger. Maybe Jenna could apologize for the things she had said too harshly, even if she did not apologize for trying to help. She told herself she expected nothing in return. She did not know that Maya had spent those same years building a completely different version of their history. By the night before the gathering, Maya's bedroom looked strangely unfamiliar. Clothes covered the bed. Makeup containers stood open across the vanity. Jewelry lay scattered beside hair accessories. In the center was an elaborate dark wig Maya had chosen specifically for the occasion. She lifted it carefully. The hairstyle was dramatic, thick, and carefully structured, creating enough volume to conceal something small beneath it. Maya checked her reflection. "Perfect," she whispered. She had selected the wig because it made her feel transformed. Behind it, she could hide not only part of her face, but something else she did not want anyone to see. She opened a drawer and removed a small knife. For several seconds, she simply held it. There was no hesitation in her expression now. She wrapped the knife securely, positioned it within the interior of the wig, and adjusted the hair until nothing appeared unusual. Then she placed the wig on her head. From the outside, Maya looked elegant, controlled, untouchable. She practiced her smile one last time. The mirror reflected the woman her followers believed they knew, but Maya could see something different. She saw every humiliation she had collected, every unanswered question, every moment she had blamed on Jenna. In her mind, the weapon was not merely hidden beneath the hair. It was part of the message she believed Jenna deserved to understand. Tomorrow, she would see Jenna. And this time, Maya had decided she would not leave the conversation unfinished. The next evening, Maya arrived early. The gathering was held in a renovated house overlooking the city, its wide windows glowing against the evening darkness. Music drifted through the rooms, glasses clinked, and conversations rose and fell beneath warm lights. Everything looked harmless. Maya entered wearing the dark wig she had prepared the night before. She smiled at everyone. For nearly an hour, she played the woman her followers knew. She laughed, accepted compliments, and posed for photographs. No one looking at her would have guessed that she had spent days rehearsing a confrontation. Then Jenna walked through the doorway. Maya saw her immediately. For one brief second, the room seemed to disappear. Jenna looked older than Maya remembered, but not in the way Maya had imagined. There was less confidence in her posture, more caution in her eyes. She paused when she noticed Maya. Their eyes met. Neither woman moved. Finally, Jenna approached. "Hi, Maya." Maya smiled. "Jenna." The single word carried years of resentment. They exchanged polite greetings, but the conversation around them continued as though nothing unusual had happened. Someone nearby laughed loudly. Music changed. A server passed with a tray of drinks. Then Maya leaned closer. You look well. So do you. Jenna replied. I've had time to work on myself. Jenna understood the implication. I thought about you too. Maya's smile tightened. Have you? Yes. Interesting. Because you disappeared pretty easily. Jenna lowered her voice. I thought you needed space. I needed a friend. You had one. Maya stared at her. No. I had someone pretending to be one. Jenna took a slow breath. I don't want to fight tonight. Of course you don't. I mean it. Maya laughed softly. That laugh made Jenna uncomfortable. For years, Maya had imagined this moment. Yet now that Jenna stood directly in front of her, the words came almost too easily. You embarrass me, Maya said. You made me look weak. You interfered in my relationship, and then you acted like you were saving me. I was worried about you. You were jealous. I wasn't. You always thought you were better than me. Jenna shook her head. That isn't what happened. Then tell me what happened. Jenna hesitated. You were with someone who was controlling you. I saw what was happening, and I tried to tell you. Maya's expression hardened. You didn't tell me. You attacked him. You attacked my choices. Because I cared about you. You destroyed everything. I didn't destroy your relationship. You destroyed my trust. A few guests glanced toward them. Jenna noticed and stepped closer to Maya. I am sorry for the things I said badly. I am sorry that our friendship ended this way. But I cannot keep apologizing for things I didn't do. Maya went completely still. The sentence landed differently from everything before it. Her face remained calm, but something behind her eyes changed. You won't apologize? I already did. For what? For hurting you. Maya's fingers slowly lifted toward the side of her hair. Jenna noticed the movement. Maya? Maya looked directly into her eyes. There was no anger on her face now. That was what frightened Jenna. The room suddenly seemed colder. Jenna's stomach tightened. Maya, what are you doing? Maya did not answer. She tilted her head, listening to a voice. Her expression was peaceful. Jenna stepped backward. The movement was small. Maya noticed it. You're afraid of me, Maya whispered. No, Jenna said, though her voice betrayed her. I'm trying to understand. You should have understood years ago. Someone called Jenna's name. She turned. When she looked back, Maya's hand had moved beneath the hair. The smile remained. Jenna saw something cold in Maya's eyes. For one suspended second, neither woman moved. Then Maya pulled the knife from beneath her hair. Jenna barely had time to react. The attack happened so quickly that several people initially thought they were witnessing another argument. Maya stepped forward, her face suddenly empty of emotion, and struck. Jenna cried out and stumbled backward, raising her hands instinctively as the room erupted around them. Someone screamed. A glass shattered against the floor. Music continued for another few seconds before someone finally reached the speaker and switched it off. Jenna collapsed near the edge of the room, stunned and struggling to understand what had happened. Blood appeared against her face and clothing, and panic spread through the gathering. Call emergency services. Get something to stop the bleeding. Move back. People rushed toward Jenna, but no one knew what to do first. One guest grabbed a clean cloth and pressed it carefully against her injury, while another knelt beside her, repeatedly telling her to stay awake. Jenna's eyes fluttered. Maya, she whispered. Across the room, Maya was still standing. She did not run. She did not scream. She simply stared at Jenna. Her breathing was steady, almost unnaturally steady, and the expression on her face unsettled everyone watching her. There was no visible panic. Instead, Maya looked relieved, as though something she had carried for years had finally been released. A man moved between the women. Maya, put the knife down. She looked at the weapon in her hand, as if noticing it for the first time. Then she lowered it. Someone called the authorities, while another guest tried to keep Jenna conscious. The room, that had been filled with music and conversation only minutes earlier, had become a place of confusion and fear. Jenna fought to remain awake. She heard voices around her, felt hands supporting her, and tried to focus on the ceiling above her. The pain was overwhelming, but the fear was worse. She did not understand why Maya had done this. Part of her still remembered the friend who once sat beside her during sleepless nights, sharing jokes and secrets until morning. That memory collided violently with the woman standing several feet away. Maya watched the emergency responders arrive. The moment they entered, everything accelerated. Questions were shouted. Medical equipment appeared. Jenna was stabilized and moved toward the waiting ambulance. Maya remained where she was until two people approached her carefully. "Don't move," she obeyed. The knife was taken from her. Her hands were restrained. Still, she looked strangely composed. One witness later remembered that Maya seemed almost disappointed that the confrontation was ending. Another said Maya kept repeating that Jenna had made her do it. But the strangest moment came after the weapon had been removed. For several seconds, nobody spoke to her. Maya glanced toward the ambulance lights flashing through the windows. She watched Jenna disappear behind the closing doors, then looked back at the people surrounding her. Their faces were frightened. Some had tears. Others held phones, recording. Maya seemed completely offended by their silence, as though the room had stopped accepting her version of events. She wanted an audience that would listen without interruption, an audience that might understand why she believed she had been pushed to this moment. Maya looked toward the table where her belongings had been left. Her phone was there. She walked toward it before anyone could stop her. An officer reached for her arm. "What are you doing?" Maya picked up the phone. "I need to tell my side. You're not doing anything right now." But Maya was already looking at the screen. Her followers were waiting. For years, she had used that screen to build a version of herself that thousands believed. Now, with Jenna being rushed away, and the room still trembling from what had happened, Maya opened the camera. She pressed the button and went live. The camera opened. For a moment, Maya said nothing. Her face filled the screen, perfectly framed beneath the dark wig, while voices and movement continued behind her. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Somewhere nearby, someone was crying. Then Maya smiled. "I'm going to explain what happened." The livestream notification appeared, and viewers began joining almost immediately. At first, the comments were casual. "What's going on? Are you okay? Why are there sirens?" Maya looked toward the doorway before turning back to the camera. "Jenna finally got what she deserved." The comment stream changed instantly. "What happened? Did you hurt her? Is this real?" Maya shook her head slowly. "She betrayed me. She destroyed my life. Everyone thinks she was innocent because she knew how to look innocent." Her voice remained remarkably calm. She described the argument, but only through the version she had carried for years. She spoke about humiliation, betrayal, and the relationship she believed Jenna had ruined. She never described the attack directly. Instead, she presented it as the unavoidable consequence of everything Jenna had supposedly done. "She pushed me too far," Maya said. Some viewers encouraged her. Others told her to stop broadcasting and contact a lawyer. One comment appeared repeatedly. "Where is Jenna?" Maya glanced away. "She is getting help." That answer caused another wave of comments. "How do you know? Did something happen to her face?" Maya paused. The question seemed to catch her attention. "She was bleeding when they took her out." The room behind Maya became silent. She had just revealed information that had not been publicly released. Maya continued speaking, seemingly unaware of the significance of her words. She was conscious. She could still talk. They put pressure on the wound before the ambulance came. Viewers began recording the broadcast. Screenshots spread across private messages and social media within minutes. Maya's audience grew. Hundreds became thousands. The attention appeared to energize her. Her posture changed. She leaned closer to the camera, speaking faster, as though she had finally found an audience willing to hear everything she had wanted to say. "You all asked me what happened," she said. "Now I'm telling you." She repeated her accusations against Jenna, describing old arguments and private moments that had never been shared publicly. She insisted that people had misunderstood her for years. "I wasn't the problem." The comments became increasingly divided. Some viewers called Maya brave. Others called the police. A few asked why she seemed so calm. Maya laughed. "Because I'm done being afraid." That sentence would later become one of the most replayed moments from the broadcast. Investigators would also focus on other statements she made. Maya mentioned the location where Jenna had been standing when the attack occurred. She described the order in which people had rushed toward her. She even referenced details about the weapon that authorities had not yet released. None of it sounded accidental when heard together. But Maya kept talking. She told her followers that she had spent years being called difficult, jealous, and unstable. She said Jenna had always known exactly how to hurt her. She framed herself as someone who had finally reclaimed control. Meanwhile, Jenna was being transported to a hospital. The contrast was impossible to ignore. One woman was fighting through pain and fear while the other sat beneath a ring light, transforming the aftermath into a performance. Eventually, an officer noticed the live stream. "Put the phone down," Maya resisted. "People deserve to hear me. You're finished." The phone was taken from her hand, and the broadcast ended abruptly. But ending the live stream did not erase it. Viewers had recorded the screen. Platforms preserved timestamps. Comments remained. Screenshots circulated. Investigators would later collect copies from multiple accounts, comparing Maya's words with witness statements and physical evidence. What Maya had believed was her chance to control the story had become something else entirely. A digital record. A permanent witness. And before the night was over, detectives would begin watching every second of it. By morning, the recording had traveled far beyond Maya's followers. What she intended as a confession of betrayal was becoming evidence of something far more deliberate and deeply disturbing. By morning, the gathering had become a crime scene, and Maya's livestream had become the first piece of evidence investigators could not ignore. Detective Rachel Bennett arrived after sunrise. She was experienced enough to know that the loudest version of a crime was rarely the most reliable one. Maya had already given the world her explanation. Rachel's job was to discover what had happened before the cameras came on. The house looked different. Furniture had been moved. A broken glass remained near the wall. Several dark stains marked the floor where Jenna had fallen. Guests sat separately, wrapped in blankets or staring silently at their phones, each person carrying a slightly different memory of the previous night. Rachel began with the witnesses. One guest described the argument between Maya and Jenna. Another remembered Maya laughing during the confrontation. A third said Maya had reached beneath her hair before anyone understood what she was doing. "Did she look surprised afterward?" Rachel asked. "No," the witness replied. "That's what frightened me." "What did she look like?" The woman swallowed. "Relieved." Rachel wrote the word down. Later, she watched the live stream. The recording began with Maya already holding the phone. Rachel watched without interruption as Maya spoke about betrayal, humiliation, and revenge. At first, the detective saw emotional instability rather than a clear confession. Then she noticed something else. Maya knew details she should not have known. She described where Jenna had been injured and what people had done before emergency responders arrived. She referred to the wound while Jenna was still being treated, before authorities had released any public information. Rachel paused the recording. Who told her that? No one could answer. She continued watching. Maya repeatedly insisted that the attack had been justified by years of betrayal. Yet the more Rachel listened, the less spontaneous the story sounded. Certain phrases seemed practiced. Certain accusations had appeared before, buried inside older online posts. Rachel requested access to Maya's public accounts and began tracing the digital history between the women. The search produced more than expected. Maya had been watching Jenna for months. She had viewed Jenna's public videos, commented beneath old photographs, and followed accounts belonging to Jenna's friends. Some activity appeared harmless. Taken individually, none of it proved anything. Together, it created a pattern. Rachel found deleted comments and archived copies of old posts. She found private messages in which Maya complained that Jenna had forgotten who she really was. Another message described Jenna as someone who would eventually pay for everything. Rachel leaned back from the computer. The wording mattered. So did the dates. Some messages had been written weeks before the gathering. Others appeared only days before it. Then investigators found conversations with people who knew Maya. In several of them, she had mentioned seeing Jenna again. She had asked questions about the gathering and wanted to know whether Jenna would attend. One acquaintance remembered Maya saying, "If she comes, I'm going to confront her." At the time, nobody considered the statement a threat. Now Rachel did. She returned to the physical evidence. The knife had not been grabbed from the kitchen during the argument. It had been concealed inside Maya's wig before she arrived. That distinction changed the investigation. A spontaneous argument could become violent. But bringing a hidden weapon suggested something had existed before the argument began. Rachel examined photographs of the wig and the weapon, then reviewed the timeline again. Maya arrived early. She knew Jenna would be there. She had prepared her appearance. She had brought a concealed knife. She confronted Jenna. Then she broadcast the aftermath. Each fact connected to the next. Rachel did not yet know exactly when Maya had decided to attack. She did not know whether the plan had been fixed for days or had developed gradually from obsession. But she knew one thing. This did not look like a woman who had simply lost control. It looked like a woman who had spent a long time moving toward a moment she had already imagined. And the deeper Rachel dug, the more evidence she found that Maya had been preparing for that moment long before Jenna ever walked through the door. Rachel had expected the investigation to reveal contradictions. She had not expected to discover that the foundation of Maya's hatred might have been built on a misunderstanding that had hardened into certainty. She returned to the old relationship between Maya and Daniel. At first, the record seemed ordinary. Then the pattern emerged. Messages showed Daniel questioning Maya's friendships, criticizing her appearance, demanding constant updates, and becoming angry whenever she spent time away from him. Jenna had noticed those changes before Maya was willing to admit them. Rachel found messages Jenna had sent during that period. One read, "I'm worried about you." Another followed days later. "You don't have to choose him over everyone." There was no evidence that Jenna had tried to destroy the relationship. She had tried to warn her friend. But Maya had heard something completely different. In old conversations, Maya described Jenna as jealous and controlling. She accused her of deliberately creating problems between Maya and Daniel. When the relationship eventually collapsed, Maya blamed Jenna. The more Rachel investigated, the stranger the story became. Maya had repeated the same accusations for years, but the wording had changed. Each retelling added another injury, another humiliation, another reason Jenna supposedly deserved her hatred. It was almost as though Maya had been editing the past until it matched what she needed to believe. Rachel studied the timeline. The original argument had been painful, but it was not the catastrophe Maya later described. There had been no secret betrayal, no calculated attempt to ruin Maya's life. There had been a warning. Maya had rejected it. And when everything eventually fell apart, she had needed someone to blame. That discovery became even more important when Rachel visited Jenna at the hospital. Jenna was recovering, her face heavily bandaged. She looked exhausted, but when Rachel introduced herself, she agreed to speak. "I know why she hated me," Jenna said quietly. Rachel sat beside the bed. "Do you?" "I think so." Jenna looked toward the window. "She believed I wanted her relationship to fail. Did you?" "No." The answer came without hesitation. "I wanted her to leave him." Jenna paused before continuing. "I probably said things I shouldn't have. I was angry. I thought if I pushed hard enough, she'd finally see what was happening." Rachel asked whether Jenna had ever deliberately humiliated Maya. Jenna shook her head. "Never." She looked down at her hands. "I knew she might never forgive me. I accepted that. But I never thought she'd hurt me." For the first time, Jenna allowed herself to cry. "I keep thinking about who she used to be." Rachel did not interrupt. "She was my best friend," Jenna whispered. "I remember everything we went through together. Sometimes, I wonder whether she remembers any of it." The question stayed with Rachel after she left. Later, she reviewed Maya's statements again. Maya's anger was unmistakably real. Her resentment had not been invented by investigators, and neither had the pain she carried. But pain did not automatically make every memory accurate. Somewhere between the original argument and the night of the attack, Maya had transformed a complicated friendship into a simple story with one victim and one villain. Jenna had become the villain. Maya had become the victim. And once that version of the past became part of Maya's identity, every new memory seemed to strengthen it. Rachel realized the most disturbing truth was not that Maya had lied. It was that Maya might have believed herself. The investigation was no longer only about what Maya had done to Jenna. It was about the story Maya had spent years telling herself until revenge began to feel like justice. That distinction would matter in court. Prosecutors could challenge the story Maya had built, but they would also have to explain how sincerely she appeared to believe it. Rachel knew that difference could become crucial to everyone. The distinction Rachel had recognized soon became central to the prosecution's case. Investigators went deeper into Maya's digital history, recovering archived live streams, old videos, deleted comments, private messages, and posts that had disappeared from her public accounts. What once looked like ordinary online drama began to form a troubling pattern. Jenna's name appeared again and again. Sometimes Maya mentioned her directly. Other times she spoke about people who deserve consequences, or friends who eventually get what they earn. At the time, followers had treated those statements as emotional venting. Now investigators placed them beside the dates of Maya's searches, messages, and conversations about the upcoming gathering. The context changed everything. One old video showed Maya smiling into the camera while saying that she never forgot betrayal. Another contained a vague warning that someone from her past would regret crossing her. There was no name attached. No single statement proved a plan. But together, the material revealed escalation. Maya had moved from remembering Jenna to monitoring her, from monitoring her to discussing her, and from discussing her to preparing for a confrontation. Prosecutors believed the pattern mattered. Maya's attorney disagreed. During pretrial proceedings, the defense argued that investigators were turning years of emotional online expression into evidence of criminal intent. Maya had been angry, the attorney said, but anger was not the same as planning. Her live stream after the attack, he argued, showed a woman experiencing an emotional breakdown and desperately trying to explain herself. The internet captures fragments, he said. Fragments do not tell the whole story. The prosecution intended to show that the fragments became meaningful when placed together. They presented the concealed knife. They presented witness statements describing Maya's behavior before the attack. They presented messages showing that she expected Jenna to attend. They presented the live stream recorded immediately afterward. Most importantly, they presented Maya's own words. The evidence created a sequence that was difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Maya had known Jenna would be there. She had arrived carrying a hidden weapon. She had confronted her. Afterward, instead of expressing confusion about what had happened, she had spoken publicly about revenge and revealed details that only people at the scene could have known. The defense continued challenging the interpretation. Maya listened from behind her lawyers, increasingly silent. For years, she had treated her audience as protection. Whenever she felt misunderstood, she had opened a camera and explained herself. Thousands of strangers had listened, defended her, and reinforced the story she wanted them to believe. Now those same recordings were being played in a courtroom. Every pause mattered. Every accusation mattered. Every confident statement she had made while believing she controlled the narrative was being examined by people who had no emotional investment in protecting her version of the past. Maya began to understand the irony. The camera had once made her feel powerful. Now it had preserved her words. Her own audience had become a collection of witnesses. As the hearing continued, prosecutors displayed a timeline on a screen. Dates appeared beside messages, photographs, searches, and recorded statements. The timeline did not prove what Maya had been thinking, but it showed how consistently Jenna occupied her attention. Rachel noticed jurors watching, following the progression from resentment toward the gathering. Maya stared at the screen without blinking. For a moment, she seemed to see her history differently, not as scattered memories, but as a trail leading toward the night everything changed. That realization frightened her more than accusations. And the woman who had spent years documenting her life was finally discovering that nothing she had recorded could be taken back. Rachel watched Maya during one hearing. For the first time since the investigation began, Maya did not look angry. She looked trapped. The story she had built online was still visible everywhere. But now, someone else was telling it. And this time, Maya could not control the ending. The trial begins, and for the first time, Maya's carefully constructed public identity starts collapsing under the weight of evidence. The version of herself she had created online, the person who seemed confident, misunderstood, and always in control, now has to face a room where every statement can be challenged and every contradiction can be examined. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere is tense. The prosecution begins presenting witnesses who describe what happened during the attack. Their testimony gives the court a clearer picture of the events, piece by piece. Details that once existed only through messages, posts, and private conversations are now spoken aloud, under oath, where Maya cannot simply delete them, explain them away, or replace them with a different version of the story. Then the digital evidence is presented. Screenshots, messages, photographs, and other records become part of the official case. Words that may have seemed harmless or emotional when viewed separately begin to take on a different meaning when placed beside the other evidence. The prosecution argues that the pattern is too consistent to dismiss as a simple emotional reaction. But one of the most powerful moments comes when Jenna appears before the court. Jenna does not simply describe Maya as a monster. Instead, she speaks about the friendship they once shared. She remembers the person Maya had been before everything changed. There is disappointment in her words, but also the complicated sadness of someone trying to understand how a relationship that once felt meaningful could end in something so destructive. For Maya, hearing Jenna speak is different from watching a reaction online. There is no screen between them now. There is no comment section to shape. There is no opportunity to carefully select which parts of the story people see. She has to sit there and listen. And with every word, the consequences become more real. The prosecution argues that Maya's behavior was not simply the result of one emotional breakdown. They point to the evidence as proof of planning, obsession, and revenge. According to the prosecution, the actions leading to the attack demonstrate a pattern of decisions made over time, suggesting that Maya had opportunities to stop but continued moving forward. The defense takes a different approach. They emphasize Maya's emotional instability, past trauma, and years of psychological deterioration. Her attorneys argue that understanding her mental and emotional condition is essential to understanding how she reached this point. They ask the court to look beyond the shocking outcome and consider the person behind it, including the struggles and experiences that may have contributed to her behavior. But sympathy cannot erase evidence. As the trial moves toward its conclusion, the courtroom becomes increasingly focused on one central question, where responsibility ultimately lies. Both sides have presented their arguments, but the decision will not be based on which story sounds more compelling. It will be based on what the evidence proves. Then comes the verdict. Maya is ultimately found guilty of the major charges connected to the attack. The courtroom falls into a heavy silence as the decision is read. After everything that has been said, everything that has been revealed, and every attempt to explain what happened, there is no longer another version of events that can change the outcome. The court imposes a lengthy prison sentence. Yet the verdict does not give Maya the emotional resolution she may have expected. A conviction can establish responsibility, but it cannot undo what happened. It cannot restore the friendship that was lost, erase the fear caused by the attack, or return either woman to the lives they had before everything changed. As Maya is taken away, she looks toward the courtroom cameras. For so long, cameras and screens had been part of the world she knew how to control. She could choose what to post, what to reveal, and what to hide. She could shape reactions and present herself according to the story she wanted others to believe. But now, for once, she cannot control the story being told about her. The courtroom doors begin to close behind her, leaving the consequences of her choices firmly in place. And as the attention shifts beyond the verdict, one question remains hanging in the air. What happens when the person who spent so long controlling the narrative finally loses control of it completely? The courtroom doors close, but the story does not end with Maya's conviction. In many ways, the most difficult chapter begins after the cameras move on, because a verdict can establish responsibility without repairing the damage left behind. Jenna survives the attack, but surviving is only the beginning. Physical injuries may heal with time, yet the emotional scars are harder to measure. Ordinary moments can suddenly bring back memories of what happened. Places, messages, sounds, or even the sight of a phone camera can remind her of the person she once trusted and the violence that followed. Her recovery becomes a slow process of separating her identity from the trauma Maya inflicted upon her. Jenna has to learn that what happened to her does not have to become the definition of who she is. She is more than the victim in a courtroom, more than the friend at the center of a public scandal, and more than the person whose life was changed by someone else's choices. That realization does not happen overnight. There are difficult days, moments of anger, and moments when questions remain unanswered. Why did the friendship change? When did affection become resentment? Could anything have stopped what happened? Some questions may never have satisfying answers, but Jenna gradually begins moving forward without allowing those questions to control every part of her life. And when the history between the two women is viewed from a distance, the friendship finally becomes clearer. It was not destroyed by one argument. It was destroyed by years of resentment, manipulation, unresolved trauma, and an increasing refusal to accept uncomfortable truths. What once looked like a close bond slowly became a conflict where each person carried a different version of the past. Instead of confronting those differences honestly, the relationship became a struggle over who would control the narrative. Maya remains incarcerated, separated from the online world that once gave her influence and attention. Her old audience gradually disappears. People move on to other stories, other personalities, and other controversies. The attention that once seemed permanent proves to be temporary, leaving behind only the consequences that cannot be scrolled past. Even the live stream that once gave Maya a sense of power takes on a completely different meaning. It becomes permanently associated with the moment her life unraveled. Rachel closes the case, but the experience stays with her. She has watched how quickly a private conflict can become a public performance when phones, cameras, and social platforms are involved. She has seen how people can build entire identities around their own version of events, sometimes repeating that version until they begin treating it as unquestionable truth. And that may be the most unsettling lesson of everything that happened. In the digital age, resentment does not always remain private. A grudge can become a post. A private argument can become a live stream. A personal accusation can become entertainment for thousands of strangers. And once an audience becomes involved, the desire to control the story can become stronger than the desire to understand what actually happened. The final image returns to the phone screen. The same kind of screen that once helped Maya shape her identity now shows something she can no longer control. The recording remains. The evidence remains. The memories remain. But Maya is no longer directing the story. The camera keeps recording without her. For Jenna, the future is no longer about proving which version was right. It is about reclaiming a life that existed before the cameras, before the arguments, and before the friendship became a battlefield. Healing means choosing that future, even when the past refuses to disappear. There is no final speech that can rewrite what happened. No carefully chosen explanation can erase the consequences. No audience can turn back time. What remains is a permanent record of choices, consequences, and a friendship that crossed a line it could never return from. And perhaps that is where the story truly ends, not with revenge, fame, or even the conviction, but with a warning that when someone spends too long rewriting the past, they may eventually become willing to destroy another person just to make their version of it real.